Hey everyone, and welcome to Boss Advisory. Today we're going to talk about why you should never buy a house. I keep running into people who are trying to tell me repeatedly that renting is a complete waste of money. Similar to burning money, your mortgage payment is going to someone else. When you can get a mortgage and own the house, even if it means waiting 30 years, why would you waste money on rent? Sincere to say, this is stupid. Even if we believe that purchasing a home will be less expensive in the long term, renting means you are not wasting money. You receive something in exchange. You don't get them when you order an Uber. You don't get the driver nor you get the company. You are merely receiving a service. The entire function of an automobile is to get you from point A to point B, and Uber will do just that. The same is true when you rent a home. A home's main purpose is to provide a place for you to live rather than for you to possess it. But a place to stay is always necessary. Because of this, the majority of people continue to believe that renting is a waste of money, especially when there is an alternative to own a home for the same amount. And this is where the misunderstanding begins. Most individuals simply consider the standard price tag and directly compare it to the rent instead of comparing all the costs associated with purchasing a home. But in this video, you'll learn how renting instead of buying can help you accumulate millions of dollars. Just to be clear, we're not discussing purchasing a home as an investment, as that is something quite different. Let's imagine that despite the fact that you are planning to rent and your friend is taking his parents' advice and getting a mortgage since they advise him to do so, renting is a waste of money. Let's see how your net worth would change if everything remained the same 30 years from now. If you check in 30 years, a $300,000 residence can be rented for about $1,800. Even if we use the pre-pandemic interest rate, it would be close to 4.5%, making your total monthly payment of $1,216. Principal plus interest is what that is. If you make your choice only based on these two numbers, a mortgage is questionably a more cost-efficient choice than renting, which is obviously a waste of money. Unfortunately, there is more to the story than that. Once you factor, everything starts to alter. Different costs. That sum would be almost $1,700 when insurance and property taxes are included. Even now, it seems like buying is a better deal than renting, and I couldn't agree more. However, we need to be realistic and take additional costs associated with home ownership into account. Sometimes, the cost of maintaining a home exceeds the actual cost of the home, especially if we are discussing it. The property beneath your feet might increase in value after 30 years, but everything else begins to depreciate. It may be necessary to replace the kitchen every 10, 15, or 20 years. There is an expiration date on each item of furniture. The sofa can last for 30 years. Every 10 to 15 years, the roof is replaced. Every X number of years, the bathroom needs to be replaced. If you've ever owned a home, you know how expensive it is to maintain one. But when you rent, none of these costs apply. Typically, a home's annual maintenance costs range from 1 to 5% of the purchase price. Using a 2.5% average, our monthly maintenance expense comes to $625. If you round it up over 30 years, you won't necessarily spend $625 per month. But it is a reasonable estimate, and in some cases, it might even be much more. Therefore, your monthly total cost of ownership increases to $2,332, while your rent is $1,800. However, even after comparing these figures, purchasing still looks preferable. Yes, we are slightly overpaying, but in 30 years, you will own a home that will be worth hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, while your friend who has been renting for the entire time would have nothing. However, let's calculate. If your home increases in value by 3% a year, the value of your home after 30 years will be $728,000. Any greater than that is very far-fetched, so say the least. The opportunity cost is the only factor lacking from this calculation because housing values can potentially decrease. You were required to put down $60,000 or 20% of the total loan amount when applying for a mortgage. With that money, you could have opened a corner store, a business, or anything else that would make money. However, in this hypothetical scenario, let's assume that you would invest it in the stock market. Given that we are talking about a period of 30 years, it is reasonable to believe that we can expect at least an 8% rate of return because the long-term average return on the S&P 500 has been around 10%. Your mortgage payment is $2,332 per month, yet when you're renting a home similar to it, it's $1,800. Consequently, there is a $532 monthly opportunity cost. Assume for the moment that you will contribute $532 per month to a $60,000 investment using the power of compounding. 30 years at an 8% annual growth rate would result in $1.3 million. While you own a home for $728,000, your friend who has been renting for the same period and investing the difference will end up with $1.3 million. Which do you believe to be better? Liquid assets worth $1.3 million or a $728,000 home. The situation appears to be very different when viewed from this angle. Even these figures, however, are not the most accurate because we fail to account for at least a 2% annual rent increase, as well as the fact that the price of your maintenance would rise in line with inflation. You may maintain your home on a tight budget by spending no more than 1% of its worth. Additionally, we didn't account for the interest deductions that come with buying a house. Or perhaps you need to renovate the home but lack the funds to do so. As a result, you choose to pay with a credit card, for instance, and pay exorbitant interest on top of that. But the point is that renting allows you the chance to invest elsewhere and that owning a home isn't necessarily the wisest investment. Especially if you only want to stay there for a short period of time. Even if you secure a mortgage, the expense of selling that home and purchasing a new one will likely drive up the price. Given the current low interest rates, the calculation isn't likely to change much because if it's adjustable, your mortgage rate would rise in a year or two. The market is slightly overvalued, so once it's fixed, once life returns to normal, there might be a drop in the coming years. And less than $728,000 would be your final net worth. Additionally, you want to be prepared to benefit if interest rates fall further in the future for any reason, because that is where they appear to be headed in the long run. 30 years is a significant amount of time. For instance, I have no idea what my life will be like in 30 years. There is a lot that could alter, and the epidemic is current proof of that. The possibility to move to a more affordable place and save a ton of money on a ranch was available to those who were renting and had been able to work from home all this time. The people who bought the house had no choice but to remain, despite the fact that everything is changing so quickly that staying in one neighborhood is becoming increasingly difficult and isn't always the greatest choice. Especially now that we have access to wealth-building instruments that our ancestors did not, including the free option to invest in the stock market from the convenience of your smartphone. That is not to say that you shouldn't purchase a home. Given that it fits with your objectives, purchasing a home may be a superior choice in your situation. Do you buy or rent then? It really depends on your situation. Thank you guys so much for watching Boss Advisory, and if you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe, give this video a big thumbs up, and hit the bell so you get notified on every new incredible content we make for you. Have a wonderful day and see you on the next one.